Hello and welcome to Eva's House of Spirit. I'm Eva, and today I want to talk a little bit about the holidays and some of my thoughts on gift giving and sort of related aspects to that. Now, I work in retail, and every day I go to work as we approach, the holidays, whether it be holidays like Hanukkah or Christmas or Yule or whatever it is that, someone may celebrate. We get a lot of, people coming into the store, shopping for things. And I mean, it's my job to, make products available to people, to encourage sales, obviously, but from the perspective of someone working in a retail store, I can see the grand commercialization of the holiday season firsthand. And while, I understand, people they want to give nice things to people that they care about, I think the focus has really shifted, in modern times, obviously to sort of, I don't know if materialism is the right word, but it seems that people have largely begun to focus on things and giving to such a degree that they kind of almost get distracted from what the holidays are really about. Excuse me. And one incident, not this year, but it was, I want to say 2 years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I had a woman who came up to me, and we started talking, and she said something along the lines of, "Oh, the holidays, I can't even afford to buy a cup of coffee because I'm buying all these gifts for my kids." And I said to her, "Well, I'm the last of 5 children in my family, and we always had gifts, but we always, my mother always, she kept it within reason. You can give your children or your loved ones, whoever you're giving to, you can give to them and still, touch their heart and do a great, thing for them without going all out broke." I think people, they get so into the idea that, giving something somehow conveys how much you love them. So I think people that unconsciously kind of have that belief, they feel that, well, if I give them like an Xbox, or like if I give them like a TV or like something really big, it means I love them very much. And while it's exciting for someone to receive something huge, I think it's really not sort of necessary. It can be nice, but if you're doing this every single year, you're buying someone something that is like over the top, where you're saving every penny that you have, and you're like going all out all the time, and you're sort of spoiling that person constantly. There's 2 things, well, 3 things that I kind of feel in regard to that. The first one is that it loses its novelty. The person receiving these huge gifts comes to, on some subconscious level, almost expect that they're always going to be getting huge gifts from you, and then you sort of almost obligate yourself to give them a huge gift every year. That's the first thing. The first thing I find kind of not great about that. And then the second thing is, if the recipient is very young, you're sort of teaching that child or that teenager that, the only gift worth getting is something that's huge and expensive. And that's not necessarily a good thing. And in the real world, if if you raise someone to be constantly spoiled, and I'm not saying it in a way like, I know parents want to give their children everything they didn't have, and I understand, like, you want to give your kid a nice life. That's great. But if you are giving them every single thing all the time on a huge scale, large scale, constantly over the top, you're sort of teaching them that that's how the world works, and that's not how the world works. Eventually, when they get to that point that they are on their own, if they don't manage to make the kind of money that they can buy themselves those kind of things, they're going to find some disappointment in life, because the world does not just give you everything you want. The world also does not just reward you for no apparent reason, with things that are large and amazing and woo-ah, like, you just don't always get that. And when you marry someone, that person can't give you every single thing you want, necessarily, unless they are insanely rich. So it's not necessarily good to always, go over the top, I think, with kids, and to, kind of make it such a material focus. So that's, wait, how many? This one, two. Oh, and the third thing, sorry, I was trying to remember what was my other point. The third point about giving large, huge gifts, that's kind of a drawback to that, is that sometimes you can make people feel extremely uncomfortable doing that, because then, if you give them something huge and it is not within their means to reciprocate to that degree, which it's not necessary to reciprocate to that degree, but if someone is not able to, it can make them feel really, really crappy, and it can sort of have a counter effect from what you wanted to do. In Anne Mora's book, Green Witchcraft 2, she actually touches upon this in a short paragraph, and I'm going to read it to you real quick. It's in the section titled, Who Are the Elementals? And she's talking about, I guess, offerings. But this kind of applies to what I'm trying to say here. And the little paragraph is as follows. In primitive cultures, the exchange of gifts leads to further exchanges, and sometimes the gifting accelerates to such an extreme that there is danger of one tribal leader overpowering another through a display of economic power. If the other leader is embarrassed by this, a war between the tribes might occur over a point of honor. My mother was always careful not to overdo in gifts. She felt that people would not appreciate it if you gave them something that they themselves could not afford. It put them into an inferior or subservient position, and made any exchange of gifts awkward and unpleasant. That's what I'm trying to say. If you're like constantly giving someone like really expensive stuff, like every year, it's always over the top, you can risk, not just the novelty wearing off, not just, teaching young people, if they're really young and they're still kind of learning about, the world and life. You don't just risk also sending them the wrong messages about material items, but also you can make people feel really, really uncomfortable, because then they're like, I gave you a mug and you gave me like a TV, like, it's, it can make people uncomfortable, so that's something to consider as well. But I think the whole point of gift giving, I think people lose sight of the fact that it's not how expensive the gift is. It can be literally a dollar item. It's, when you're giving a gift, it's more an expression of a sentiment, like, I thought of you. I'm giving you this thing because I think you will enjoy this thing. And it can be something handcrafted. It can be something very inexpensive. It's not how much it costs. It's what is that thing? Can they get some joy out of that? Does that say something about, what you think of them. Does that, I guess, is that something that falls within the realm of their interests, or is it something that can spark a new interest in them? And so when I give gifts personally, I don't focus on like going for broke, going all out, maxing out my money. Like, that's not how I look at it. And I don't look at the number of gifts as being, as being significant either. It's not whether you give one or whether you give 20 things. It's what are you giving? And I mean, I've given things that were very inexpensive that really, really, really touched people's hearts. There was one year that for my husband's grandmother and my husband's mother, I didn't have a lot of money. So I made salt dough ornaments that I sculpted to be like everyone's face in the family. And I bought like really decorative little hooks, to hang them on the Christmas tree. And I painted them by hand, I sculpted them by hand, baked them, painted them with acrylic, and then I sealed them with clear coat. And when I gave these as gifts, they were just like, oh my God, that is so adorable. I love it. I love it. I love it. I mean, I didn't have to go to the degree of buying them something very expensive and lavish. That little thing mattered so much. So what I'm trying to say here with this video is be careful not to let yourself get so wrapped up in the commercialization of the holiday. Companies that sell stuff, they're going to convince you that you need things that you don't need, and they're going to try and convince you to buy things that are ridiculously expensive. And, a lot of times too, it's easy to fall into, like I said before, the belief that, oh, if it's a bigger, more expensive gift, it means I care more. And that's not really true. It's not how expensive something is. It's that you thought of that person and you took the time to either choose something or make something, or put something together that, was for them. You really took the time. And sometimes I think DIY, like do-it-yourself, handmade gifts are even better, I think, sometimes than ones that you just go to a store and pick off a shelf, because when you DIY, like, there's no other gift that is like that in the world. That is one of a kind. It is only made for them. You took the time, you took the effort, you thought it up, you did that just for them. Or you found that, let's say maybe if you Googled online, like DIY gifts, you found that idea online and you put in the time to actually put it together. So that means something. And where kids are concerned with toys, they outgrow those, and kids grow fast. So if you're getting your kids gifts that are appropriate to certain ages, that they're going to outgrow it in a couple of years, why go to the point of spending sick amounts of money when that's not going to matter later on down the road? And then they may or may not the gift may not last. So what's the point? If it's like $200 or $300, $400, like, and this kid is going to outgrow it in a little while, because their interests change. They grow, they get older, and then they kind of outgrow certain things that they liked at a certain age. So, like, what's the point of going to that degree? I think keep it more reasonable, that's probably a better way to go. As a kid, my brothers and sisters and I, we didn't grow up with name brand toys, but I'll tell you what, it didn't hurt me. It didn't hurt my sisters and brothers or I any at all. We had plenty of toys. There was one year I remember I really wanted a Cabbage Patch doll, and I didn't get the name brand Cabbage Patch, but I got a doll that was generic that looked exactly like a Cabbage Patch doll. Do you think I cared as a child that it didn't say Cabbage Patch on the box? She looked exactly like a Cabbage Patch doll. She was made pretty much exactly like a Cabbage Patch doll. The face was like the same. The body was the cloth body, just like the Cabbage Patch dolls. She had like the same kind of hair. She was the same thing. So as a little kid, I was like, yay! I didn't care the brand. I didn't care about that. So, I think parents maybe should think about, it doesn't have to be like the brand. Kids are happy with, geez, almost anything. They like toys, they like to play. While some things can be special, sometimes occasionally you can give something a little more expensive once in a blue. Though I personally believe if you're going to give something a little more like souped up, maybe things like that should be rewards for being exceptionally good, and then when you give the gift, oh, well, you're getting this because you've been so good, you've done so well in school, you've done your chores without being asked, you've been so good that, like, here, you earned this, and this is for you, and I hope you like this. I don't believe that parents should reward sort of like bad behavior with like over-the-top crazy souped-up gifts. Not that you don't love your kids when they're bad, and not that they don't get a gift at Christmas if they've been a little bad, but maybe if they're kind of maybe give them a gift that's a little less expensive. You know what I mean? Instead of rewarding doing whatever the hell you want all year and not trying to be good. In a sense, I think if kids come to realize that gifts come as a reward for really rising above, really rising to the challenge of being really, really good and doing their best, and really applying themselves in life in several areas, like really being super good. If they come to realize, like, hey, when I'm really good, I earn things, like my efforts to do the right thing, are rewarding, maybe they will grow up in a way that, they won't expect to be rewarded just, oh, you're fabulous, here's something for you. You know what I mean? I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt, what I'm saying, because I don't personally have kids, but these are my views. And I mean, I see a lot of things at my job that just blow me away. I see kids talking to their parents like they're pieces of garbage, and then the parents buy them whatever they want. And I'm just like thinking to myself, wow, is that how that works? Like, I see kids throwing tantrums and then getting what they wanted because they threw a tantrum in the store. When I grew up, that didn't happen. You threw a tantrum, you lost any chance of getting what you wanted. And we didn't throw tantrums anyway, because my mother would just look at us like, are you serious? And we would just, no, it just wouldn't happen. We didn't throw tantrums. We somehow understood on some unspoken level that we didn't, that's just not appropriate. You don't do that sort of thing. But anyway, sorry, I don't mean to ramble about the whole idea of whether to spoil or not spoil. And again, it's just one other thought on that. Some kids you can spoil and they still grow up level-headed, and then some kids you spoil and you just ruin them as people. But you never quite know until that point of hindsight when they're grown if it was okay or not. Like, during the process of their growing up, you never quite know. Because they're not complete yet. They're still kind of growing, and they're still sort of receiving messages about things. So I think maybe it's better to balance things out. Like, not saying you can't give your kids things that are wild and crazy and over the top once in a blue if they earn it or something, or not like you can't do that once in a while. But I think to constantly do that, to constantly go to that level, maybe is not a good thing. It really doesn't express the way the world works, and it's almost preparing them with a false sense about the world. It's giving them a false message, I think. You can agree with me or disagree with me, and that's fine. But anyway, I think I'm getting away from the subject at hand. I just think people should really examine at holiday time what the holidays are really about. It shouldn't be about, like, standing outside of a store on Black Friday, like, ready to trample people to death because you gotta get your kid that latest toy, or because you gotta get that deal. I mean, in the news, there were cases of people that got seriously injured or killed, on certain Black Fridays, and I'm like, where is the holiday spirit? Like, I'm so glad my store doesn't do Black Friday, because we always have, everything's always a deal in my store, so we don't even bother with that kind of stuff, and I'm glad. But I think people really should consider the true meaning, the true point of the holidays. People should also keep in mind that, like, retailers, their job is to sell you crap. Crap you probably don't need. So, maybe it's better if you're going to holiday shop, make a list of who you're buying for. Have, like, some sort of idea of the type of thing you want to get, and follow your list. And once you buy something for that person, that's it. Just move on to the next person, like, don't fall into that trap of, like, everything you see, like, you're just kind of winging it shopping, because then you know what happens? You spend tons and tons of money. You may overgift one person, undergift another, or, you find yourself spending way more than you need to, and if you had given that person one gift, each person on your list, if you had given them one gift that was nice, that would have sufficed. They don't need a mountain of things. So I think some planning, some sort of perspective helps, to keep in mind that, like, the way that stores set up their displays, and, like, the way that they, the way that they run things, like, it's kind of geared to getting you to buy stuff. Sometimes even, when you're checking out, when you're going to pay, if you notice by the registers, they usually put things that they're hoping you will impulse buy. Oh, and another tip too, don't shop hungry. When you're hungry, for some weird reason, you will buy things that you don't need and that you didn't even intend to buy, whether it's food or not. It's a really weird phenomenon, but that's a tip that I can give you. I think basically, I think planning is definitely the way to go for the holidays, for your acquiring the gifts you're going to give. If you don't have a lot of money, don't be afraid to DIY gifts. If you Google, DIY gifts, there are so many sites online with so many ideas. One thing that I think is a great sort of gift for people that are hard to give to, because some people have, like, everything. Food gifts. You cannot go wrong with food gifts. Last year, what I did for some people on my list is I assembled my own sort of gourmet, like, breakfast gift baskets with all kinds of, like, really nice, like, tea, coffee, like those chocolate spoons, and, like, it had, like, pancake mix and, like, syrup, like real maple syrup, and, like, all kind of, I mean, if I bought those baskets, they would have cost, like, geez, hundreds of dollars, but I didn't spend hundreds of dollars to put them together. But, like, that's, who doesn't like something tasty like that? As long as the person is not on a special diet, or as long as, like a health diet, or as long as there's nothing, that could hurt a person. Like, if their cholesterol is high, you don't want to give them something high in cholesterol, but most people would like food gifts. It's really just focus on, will they enjoy it? Focus on what it is. So I think these are my thoughts on gift giving, and I hope it's kind of helped to bring everyone's attention back to, like, what are we really dealing with here when we approach the holidays. All these stores, whether it's, again, Yule, Christmas, or Hanukkah, they're jamming it down your throat, and it's become way too commercialized, way too capitalistic, way too materialistic. And I think if we stop and take a step back like this and gain a little bit of perspective and really, like, reconsider how we go about our holiday, gift giving practices, maybe we can make our loved ones happy or give them something enjoyable without going into debt, or without, obligating ourselves every year to have to do something better and bigger than last year because it's about a price tag. It shouldn't be about a price tag. So please feel free to post your comments, thoughts, feelings, etc. in the comment box. You know, again, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this gave you some things to think about. And till our next exchange, blessed be and ashe, please, I welcome you to subscribe to my channel. Have a great day, and I'll see you again real soon.